Everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Barry, over here at Power Apps Academy. Today we're going to be looking at formulas within Power Apps. Just an overview of formulas, how to use them. So if you're new to Power Apps, this is a real core capability of Power Apps. It's how you get things to happen in Power Apps. You manipulate data, you can control behavior, generate outputs, all that kind of thing. So it's really fundamental to get your head around, but fairly basic as well. Very similar to Excel, not too different. So we're going to be looking at some examples today of how we can use some of these. Now there's loads of formulas and functions in Power App. We're just going to be covering off some of the basic ones. I'll show you some of the documentation where you can go ahead and see what other functions are available. There's loads and loads. And I've hardly used any of them, to be honest, and it just depends on the apps that you're developing, but you can look up which ones you need and then you can delve into them a bit more deeply. But just understanding the concepts is core, I suppose, to being able to use them. So once you understand how to build the functions and the syntax and all that kind of thing, you'll be well on your way to getting where you need to be. Please hit up the like button, really helps the channel, and subscribe please. Just somewhere below there's a subscribe button. Please click on that, and feel free to join our Facebook group as well. Okay, let's hop over to our screen. Okay, I'm over here in the corner. I've opened up the shared screen over here. So basically I've just opened up Power Apps. I'm using this sort of app border that the basic foundations of an app just to make it look pretty, but this is the same as going into a blank app that you've just opened up, clicking on screens, new screen, and then just create a blank screen. Okay, so I'm just doing this just because this is a basic template of just any app I create. I have this template, so it's the same sort of thing. So within any app, we've got these properties down here. Now this is the properties of the screen, but also if I click on, let's say I add in a simple text box, text label over here. So text label is just something that shows some text. A text box is where I can actually enter text into there. So I'm just showing a label. I'm gonna, because I've got a black background, the default's there. I'm gonna click on white. So I've got some white text in my box over there. Okay, so now when that is highlighted over there, you can see the properties are now all specific to this text box. Okay, if I click on the screen, then these properties will be specific to the screen, and each property can have a formula in here. So I can use my functions and something called operators, or which are your and signs, greater than, equal to, less than. So those are called operators. And the functions are actually like sum or concatenate or something like that. Okay, so we'll just today's going to be more around the functions, and we'll use some operators within the functions. So let's just fire something up. Sorry, just get started. Okay, where are we? Let's start. Okay, we've got a text box here. I'm going to label them. I'm going to rename them just so we know what we're doing here, make it a bit easier. So LBL, all my labels, I'll start with LBL, and I'm going to call it number 1. That's number 1. Let's create a copy. I just right click, copy, right click, paste. I can also Control V and Control C to make that easier. And I'm going to call this one LBL underscore number 2. Okay, so I've got number 1, number 2, and then I want one more. I'm just going to paste to get a third, and let's put over here. Let's call this LBL answer. LBL answer. Okay, so you can see I've got 3 text box. Now I want to put in, let's say, for the text property, you can see I've got loads. The text is the actual what is displayed in there. So if I get on to the text property there, you can see it's got text in double quotes. I want to change it to a number. Let's say 25. And on this one, I'm going to take the text away. I'm going to put 30 in there. Okay, if I put numbers in, then I'm just going to put the number. If I put a word in there, then that would be behind quotes. Okay, and then now I've got two numbers in my different text boxes, number 1, number 2, and in my answer box, let's say we want to add those together. So this is where we'd use a function. We'd use something called sum. Okay, start typing in. Now just remember it is case sensitive, but luckily Power Apps will, as you're typing something in, it'll show you what it thinks it should be, and you can click in it and it'll put it in the right format. So we're going to put we could either put numbers, right? We could put 1 and 3 in there, and that would give me 4. But actually, I want to put the values of these text boxes in and calculate the sum. And let's go. So we call them LBL. This is why I renamed them. So we've got number 1 dot. Don't forget dot text, because you want the text value. This, when you put in LBL number 1, it's just it's just this item here. You actually want to select the value in there, so you have to go to the text property. Otherwise you could put the color property or whatever. So you have to be specific in what you're doing. And for the second number, we want LBL underscore number 2 dot text. Okay, so there we have it. Adds them together. Now we could, when you're working with these, if you put 2 forward slashes, it basically comments it out, so it doesn't apply it anymore. Now there are other ways of doing this as well. The sum is a function, but I could also just go LBL number 1 plus LBL number 2. Okay, I could also do it that way. I think if I put the text, it will also work. Let me just text. Yeah. Okay, so it's quite clever. There's several ways of doing the same thing. Find the way that you're comfortable with, and then just do that. But I'm just showing you, this is a function. This is just an operator adding the two values together. So we'll stick with the function for now. Should we just comment that one out and uncomment the top one? Okay, so there's a sum function. I could also subtract. There it is, or multiply, I think. Well, maybe not. Okay, so there's just a sum, I think. But if I wanted to multiply or subtract, I could just do it this way. Okay, so let's just leave that one like that. So I could put a minus there, or I could put a multiply, or I could put a divide. Okay, so there's loads of options in there. We'll stick with sum for now. Sum those two numbers. Okay, cool. By the way, just click on here and you can go to the Microsoft documentation. So learn.microsoft.com and go to the reference section, and in there's all the formula references, all the functions in there. So we can see where's sum in there, LM, URS, sum, substitute, I don't think it's divide and all that. No, okay, so excuse my error there, so there's only sum, but we know how to divide as well. Okay, so let's have a look at something else. So another type of function. So we've just copied that box down here, and we'll just that's answer underscore 1. And over here we want to use something called concatenate. So let's say we've got two separate boxes. That might be a two words that we want to join together, but they in separate boxes. We can use something called concatenate. Let's have a look here. Concatenate number 1 and number 2. So you see what it's done? Just puts them together. So you can do things like that. Let's put another box in there. Control C and Control V. So we could also go. What else could we do here? We could do, let's say, an if statement. if you've used if statements, these are really popular. You can always use them to, so if the logic of this is true or false, then do something else. Okay, so it's basically if this logic is true, then this, else do something else. But you can also nest ifs, and we'll just keep it really simple for now. So let's do basic if statement. So if we want to do our LBL number 1 is greater than, sorry, LBL.text is greater than LBL underscore number 2 dot text. So if number 1 is greater than number 2, then print true, then this text will become true. You can see we are in the text function. Else we want to print false. Close that off, and what have we done here? I think something is not right. I think it's because we need to put value in here. Let's just check this quickly. Value now. Oh, excuse me. I'll tell you what value does in a second. So let's just test that. Okay, yeah. So value, okay, we can see there's a number in there, right? Value turns any box or value, any text within that box into a number. If I replaced value with text, it would change it into a string. So a string is like a word, and there's it's called text within the properties of that. So if you go and create a SharePoint list and you add a new column, it might give you an option to create a number column or a text column, and these values here have to match. So if you try and write those values back to a SharePoint list, it's a number column in the SharePoint list and it's a text column in your app that is going to fail. So if it's a number in the list, you can always change it to a number in your app by using the value. And if it's a string or text in the SharePoint list, even if it's a number, you can change it to text in your app. Okay, but if we're using these less than, greater than, it has to be a value. Okay, it has to be a number. Just remember, number equals value. And if you're doing equals, less than, greater than, for numbers, then you have to set it as a value. And you can see that it's now a number. If I change this value to text and this value to text, okay, whoops, case sensitive. There we go. Yeah, that is not liking that because it's text, right? It's not going to be able to compare text greater than or less than. Okay, so value it needs to be. Okay, so there we have it. Now there are some things like, let's say let's say we wanted this to be, you can see it's all lowercase in there. We can start nesting things, right, and using other functions. Let's say we want it to be uppercase. So we go upper. There's and don't forget, if you get stuck, you just go, I need to make some, and you don't know what function to use. Just go into Google Power Apps. I need to make everything uppercase. It'll say, oh, use this function, and then you go into the documentation or your favorite place to get advice from, and you can just type in upper, and it'll normally show you the some examples. Sorry, got a really scratchy throat today, so difficult to talk. Right, okay, so you can see there I've got upper. Now it's changed that to uppercase. So and I've nested that. So I've just put my if statement, and then I've just wrapped upper around it. So it's just upper open bracket, and right at the end close bracket. I can change this, I think, to lower. Yeah, lower. There we go. Everything's lower case. Okay. Cool. All right. Hopefully you're with me and you understand that. Don't forget, we're still on the text property of these boxes, right? For each one, I'm on the text property. Yeah, I could use these functions within any of the others. Let's say we're looking at the color one. I could or the display mode. So this one is an edit, which means, you know, I could change the display mode to disabled or whatever on an if statement. So I could say if if this value is greater than or less than this value, then set this to disabled, else set it to edit mode. Okay, it'll be I can use if statements or functions within most of these. Okay, so that's how it works. But at the moment we just focused on the text property. Right. So let's have a look at drop down boxes, because that's another popular one that people want to use. So I'll go insert a drop down box. So there's my drop down box. Let's plonk it over here. Now items. Now when I've got a drop down box, go to the play screen. I've got 1, 2, 3 in there. Okay, I don't want 1, 2, 3. I want some other values in there. How am I going to change that? So this just uses this drop down sample. That will be a built-in table. So you just got to learn some of the stuff, right? Square brackets for anything that has a drop down box, and then any values you want to be listed, you just put in double quotes and separate by a comma. Okay, like that. So let's go location. So London, Zurich, New York, Amsterdam, Paris. Okay, and you can see now when I can also push Alt on the screen and drop down. Now I can see I've got them all in there. Okay, cool. I've got some things in my drop down list. Like these, you can see I've specified them within the app itself, but I can also get the values for my drop down list from, let's say, a SharePoint list. Okay, so before we go and do that, I just want to show you that you can also do like the upper function here. Just wrap it around there. Cool. Now I can see everything in there is in uppercase. That's fantastic. And I could also do a sort around there as well. So sort the whole thing. Sort. You can see it tells you there's another expression there, so just value on there. Now I've got everything sorted by value, A to Z. Amsterdam, London, New York, Paris, Zurich. Cool. Or, I could change this to lower. Cool, so everything's in lowercase. Alright, nice, that's fantastic. Let's put another drop down list in. This one we're going to link to a SharePoint list. So I'll put the drop down next to it. Now I've got a SharePoint list in here called office locations. Office underscore, I think this is it. Try a different one. Office locations, this one. So I've got a list of office locations in here. So let's use that. And just remember here, the title is the column that we want. We could use any of these titles, but that's the one that we want. So let's go. How are we going to link this to our SharePoint list? So we've added it in here. First of all, we are going to need a new data source. So just remember, if you're connecting to anything, that's not within the app, you have to create a data source connection. I could have done it through here, but just remember this little container over here links to your data sources page. You can see I've already got some link, but we want to link in that office locations SharePoint list. So it's a SharePoint list we want to link to. So I'm going to type in SharePoint there. You can see SharePoint. I'm going to click on that. Just click on your account. I'll click on the SharePoint site, which has it. It has my list configured, and we want office underscore locations. Okay, so we're going to connect to that. You'll see it appear in here. There we go, office locations. Now it's available for me to use. Now when I click on this list, where it says items, you can see it's got that default table in there. We want to change that. Now we could have just put the brackets and created the list ourselves as we did in this one. But with this one, we want to configure it to this office location. So we're just going to select that. And just very important, remember this value over here. You can see like, oh, there's nothing in it. Why is there nothing in it? It is connected. It is connected to my list. You can see there, but it's using this compliant asset ID, which there's no value in, so it's just blank. So what you have to do is go into here, and remember in our SharePoint list, it's using the title column. So we want to map to that title column. There we go, click title, and there we have it. There's my list. Now, oh gosh, you can see I've got like, sometimes you might be referring to a SharePoint list where there's multiple values which are the same, and you don't want to have loads of the same values in there. You just want to have one of each. Does anyone know what function you can use to get one of each? Yes, it's called distinct, right? Distinct. So that's quite a common one. Distinct, and we want to use the office locations SharePoint list for our distinct, and we want, which column do we want to use? Title. Okay, and we just close it off there. Now what happens when we drop down that list? There's only one of each. Okay, so that's a really useful one. So if you want to pull a list of values and you just want to make sure there's one of each, but you're pulling it from a SharePoint list that has loads of the same values, it just cuts off all the duplicates. Fantastic function there. And let's say we want to we always want this dash to appear at the top of the list by default. Then we can just sort as well. You can see we can just nest these and build them up how we want them. Sort by value on this one. There we go. Close that off. Cool. Now you can see it's sorted. We got that at the top. Perfect. All in it's distinct. There's only one of each, and it's also in alphabetical order. And do we want it in uppercase? Yay! Let's put it in uppercase as well. As you can see, we just keep building around it. Really easy. Now when we drop it down, everything's in uppercase, just as we want it. Just gonna grab another sip of my tea. Okay, so probably try and keep it short and sweet. There are other options, right? I could, which I'm not going to go into today, we can maybe do another time. I could have it so when I select a value here, and you can see I've got multiple other options in here, that it in another text box it shows me the time zone for that. So when I select Hong Kong, it'll automatically display the time zone as well without me having to go and select it. There are things that you can do on that, and there's some this depend on as well. It's basically saying the values that are in here depending on the values on, let's say I select Amsterdam in here, and there's certain options that are available only to Amsterdam. I can do that, but that's sort of beyond the scope of this tutorial, I think. I'm just thinking, is there anything else that we want to cover? Maybe just briefly, just over here you can see I've added in here some common date functions which you might want to add. So if I just put in a a label box over here. I could put in, instead of text, I could just put in today. Close that off. You can see it puts in the date. Oh, don't forget everything's, I've got a black background, so I need to change that. I could put in the date. This one I've formatted in the time. I've used this formatting over here for Great British formatting, and you can do that. So I could put the year on this side or whatever. I could also use now. Okay, which gives me the date and the time. It's a bit more specific. Other things which are commonly used are variables. Variables, let's say I put in a button. Now I often set variables when a screen loads, so I could either go onto the screen itself, and I could go when the screen becomes visible, then set some variables. So let's say I transition from one screen into this screen. When this loads, I want these variables like to be A and B, and then as I might have some buttons on the screen that when they push the button, it changes the variable to C or D. Okay, so it just gives me some options. So variables are just placeholders. I might call it a variable. Let's use this button to as an example. So onSelect is basically the property of the button. So when it's pushed, it's going to run whatever functions or code that you have in this box over here. So there's two variables. One is a global variable, which looks like this. It's basically set variable name. I always start my variable names with var underscore. That's a var global one. So set this variable to be hello world. Hello world. Okay. And I'm also going to put a text box. It's always useful when you're troubleshooting to put a label box just so you can see what your variable is. Don't forget to make it white so I can see it. Okay, I'm going to set this. Now I can set this to a variable as well, right? Which is great because I can have a label that changes values depending on what the variable changes to. So I can see my new variable there, which I've set. So you can see it hasn't been set because I haven't hit my button, but when I hit my button, there we go, it's hello world. And then I might have I'm just going to copy this button, have another one, button 2, and this one will be hello world, hello Mars. Okay, so I'm just the same variable, but on this you can see the variable name's exactly the same as the buttons, but it's going to update. So when I click on this button, it's going to change to hello Mars, and this one's hello world. So you can see same variable name. I might have a different button which sets it to different things. So I use this quite a lot within within screens where I want some logic, and something happens and I want it to have an impact on another part of my app, then I will set the variable. Now a global variable generally operates through any screen within your whole app, whereas you might have something called update context, which generally is local to one screen. Does very similar, does basically the same thing except within a local screen. So it might be in a shopping cart. I might use my update context. Just remember, if you're putting new lines in there, then just put that semicolon in there. Update context. You just learn the formula for this one. Var context. Okay. Context 1, and this one would be hello world context. Okay. Close my squiggly brackets. Close the brackets. So that's just the syntax. Okay. The squiggly brackets in between, then the variable name, and then whatever you're setting it to. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy that. Put it on the second button. I'm going to put it on here. Do the same. I'm going to paste it in. Context 1, hello Mars context. I'm just going to show you that it does exactly the same thing. It's just a different way. Global variables throughout your app. Update context within one screen. So copy this and paste it. Just to go, this is my context value. Var underscore context 1. Okay, you can see it's blank. Let's hit the buttons, see what happens. Ah, there we go. Hello world. Hello Mars. Okay. Achieving the same thing. What else can we have a look at? I think that's it. Maybe just a quick one on the filter. Can we do this filter? Right, so we've got a few things in there. Let's just have a look at filter. So we want to use our items in there, but so let's go back onto, we want to use our office location, but we want to filter our office location. So filter this list where title, remember we're using title for the office location, is equal to London. Close that off. Let's see what happens. Cool. Oh, remember we need to make, because I reset it. It's just back onto title again. Cool. So now it should just show London. You can see there's 2 Londons in there. 2 Londons, 1, 2. So it's only showing back where there's where there's an equal. It's basically filtering that list to London. Now we could filter it to this drop down list. Okay, instead of this here, we can actually filter it to another drop. Which one is this? This is drop down 1. So we're gonna say filter this office locations list within the drop down menu to where title equals to drop 1 dot selected text dot value. So Amsterdam. Okay, let's see what happens there. Oh, it's got nothing. Let's see if we go to London. Oh, because there is a London in there and there's 2. Actually, we only want to ever show 1. What are we going to put in here? Distinct. So we can wrap distinct around there as well to the title. And is there only 1 now? Yes, there's only 1. So Paris, there's no Paris. Zurich, yes, there is a Zurich. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Cool. Alright, well we'll leave it there. I don't want to go too much in depth. We'll maybe do some, if you're interested, hit me up in the comments below and we want to go into a deeper dive around some of these topics. We can do. Otherwise, I hope that gave you some insight into functions and how they work within Power Apps. We'll see you soon for another video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. See you guys soon. Bye.